The most visited country. More people visit France than any other place in the world. A total of 82.6 million people visited France in 2016. Why is France such a popular country? It is because there is something for everyone. There are many things to do in Paris, the capital of France. Visitors can walk through the streets and enjoy famous buildings, such as the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, the Arc de Triomphe, and Notre Dame Cathedral. While sightseeing, visitors can eat at many different restaurants. Many visitors like to try haute cuisine, which is expensive French food. However, visitors can also enjoy cheaper food at restaurants and cafes. Those who love nature can visit the many gardens and parks of Paris. Luxembourg Garden is a beautiful place for people to see flowers and trees. It is also home to over 100 statues, and there is a museum nearby. Every day of the week, it is common to see people eating lunch, playing with their children, and going for walks. Visitors who love sports can go to a soccer game, since soccer is the most popular sport in France. Visitors can take the train and watch games in different towns, such as Lyon, Marseille, Bordeaux, and Nice. France is also a great place for visitors who love to ski. The French Alps in the east of France are popular because there are many mountains. Some of the ski resorts are packed with people on certain holidays. Although numbers have gone down, France still gets the most visitors each year. It's expected that 100 million visitors will travel to France by 2020.
The 12 Months. An awful woman lived with her daughter and stepdaughter in her household. She possessed feelings of hate for her stepdaughter, Anna. Anna worked while her stepsister did nothing. On a cold January night, Anna's stepmother remarked, "Your stepsister desires flowers. Go and find some." Anna was anxious about walking through the chilly landscape. The cold air made her lungs burn. She walked at a slow pace because of the snow. Soon she saw a group of people. It consisted of 12 men. Anna told them about the flowers. One of the men said they were the 12 months and that they would help Anna. January walked to her and made a motion with his hand. The days of the month passed rapidly until it was February's turn. February also made the month speed up. Then March made the sun shine, and flowers grew in the field. Anna loaded her basket with so many flowers that she could hardly lift it. Then she gave a quick but polite "thank you" to the 12 men and returned home. She was very eager to show her stepmother all the flowers. Back at the house, she spilled the flowers onto the table. Then she told her stepmother about the 12 men. Anna's stepmother and stepsister went to seek the 12 months. Their intent was to ask for gifts. They looked and looked. They became lost and never found their way home. So Anna lived happily by herself.
The Battle of Thermopylae. This is a true story. It happened long ago in Greece. "We must fight," the Spartan chief told his small army of brave men. They were at a great disadvantage. There were only 300 of them. The Persian military had hundreds of thousands of men. They were going to lose unless they could secure a small entrance. The enemy couldn't move through it easily. They intended to stop the enemy there. The chief and his men got ready for the battle. Soon, long lines of the enemy's army twisted around the hills. The chief met the enemy with laughter. He knew that his men's weapons and skills were better. The Spartans trusted their leader and obeyed him. First, the enemy soldiers shot arrows from their bows. The chief told his men to lift their shields. The arrows stuck into the shields but did not hurt any of the men. Then, the enemy soldiers attacked the Spartans with long spears. The chief surprised them. His men sent logs down the hills at the enemy. They fought for 3 days. Although they hardly slept at all, the chief and his men remained steady. But the enemy found a way to beat the Spartans. The chief and all of his men were killed. Even though they lost, the Battle of Thermopylae is one of the most famous battles in history.
The Deer and His Image. A deer told himself every day, "I am the most handsome deer in the forest. My large chest shows my power, and my beautiful horns impress other animals." But he did not like his legs and hooves. "My legs are narrow, and my hooves are ugly. They do not satisfy me." One day, the deer saw a big dog. The deer made some noise and disturbed the dog. The dog woke up and ran after him. The deer felt terror. He screamed. He did not want to be a victim, so he ran into the forest. His strong legs helped him run fast. His pale brown hooves were hard, so they were not sensitive to the rough rocks. However, his horns got caught in branches and slowed him down. His large chest could not fit between the thick trees. The deer estimated that he ran for an hour. He felt like he was running to the limit of his strength. In the end, the deer escaped the threat of the dog. He sat in the shade of a tree. "That was almost a disaster. I almost did not escape because of my chest and horns. My legs and hooves saved me." As a consequence, the deer learned to honor his fast legs and have confidence in his strong hooves. Pretty things only supplement important things, he thought.
May 29th, 1953. Today is the most important day of my life. I finally climbed Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. My name is Edmund Hillary. The top of the mountain was amazing. It felt like we were close to heaven. The snow was so thick that my boots sank into it. The air was silent. I looked at the beauty that surrounded me. Maybe my story will be a legend someday. I want people to remember this forever. I was the senior explorer in my group, and I knew we needed something to show others about our climb. I took many pictures with my camera. I'll put them in a frame and hang them on the wall of my house. On the mountain, the air was very cold. I wrapped my coat around my body. I looked over the side of the mountain top. From that angle, I saw the border of the clouds touch the rocks below. The snow was thick. It looked pure. There was no sign of modern life. Thousands of years ago, my ancestors saw the world this way. After 15 minutes, I knew it was time to proceed down the mountain. The whole team congratulated each other. My superior, John Hunt, praised us all. I sent messages to my relatives to tell them that I was safe. But it was hard to leave the mountains so quickly. I wanted to enjoy the incredible sight even longer.
Ways to reduce stress. Everyone experiences stress. Stress is a normal part of life. But too much stress can create health problems. People who are stressed can suffer from headaches, depression, and even heart problems. Whether you are busy studying or working, you need to make sure you have time to relax. One of the best ways to relax and reduce stress is to meditate. First, find a quiet place and sit up straight. Then, close your eyes, clear your mind, and pay attention to your breathing. This practice will make you feel relaxed and happier. It will also help you sleep better at night. Studies show that sleep is very important because that is when your body repairs itself. In addition, being tired can make your stress worse. Another way to relax is to listen to music. Music is a very powerful tool. Listening to slow and quiet music can relax your mind. Listening to fast, lively music can make you feel happy, which will then help you relax and reduce your stress. Some people find that singing along to songs helps take their minds off whatever is giving them stress. If your stress is worrying you, it is best to meet with a friend and talk it out. When you discuss your feelings and problems with someone, you will automatically feel better. At times when you don't feel like talking, you can write instead. Many people find it helpful to keep a journal and record their feelings. Remember that stress is a part of life and that you cannot completely get rid of it. That being said, you need to reduce stress as much as you can. Make time for yourself and try the above suggestions in order to feel relaxed and stay happy and healthy.
A beautiful bird. Dr. Norton's occupation was a scholar of biology. He learned all about animals on a daily basis. One day, he met a sailor from a colony overseas. The man told Dr. Norton about a talking bird. The bird fascinated Dr. Norton, so he told his colleagues about it. They debated with him. No one thought a bird would be able to talk. He tried to persuade them, but they laughed at him. Nevertheless, Dr. Norton believed the bird was real. His new mission was to find it. He wanted factual proof. The next day, he departed for the colony. The sailor he had met told him to look for a man named Jai, who would be able to help him in his search. After a month of sailing, Dr. Norton finally reached the colony where he met Jai. "I can take you to where it lives. It lives by the volcano," Jai said. They left the next day. A week later, they arrived at the volcano. Every day, they walked around and looked for the bird, but they couldn't find it. After 1 month, Dr. Norton could not find the bird, and this depressed him. He decided to go home. On the route back, he walked past some old ruins. He heard someone say, "Hello." "Who are you?" he asked. Dr. Norton looked up and saw a bird. Dr. Norton put the talking bird into a cage. Then he returned home. He had made a significant discovery.
Tricky Turtle. Ricky the rabbit and Tara the turtle met by the edge of the river. "No one is capable of beating me in a race," Ricky said. He was confident. His smile conveyed that. "I can beat you," Tara said. Ricky laughed with delight. Tara said, "We will race tomorrow. The destination is the hill." Ricky agreed. Tara concentrated on winning the race. She was not faster than Ricky. She needed a definite way to succeed. She told her family about the race. "I have concluded that I have to resort to something bad. I will cheat." She quietly told her instructions to them. Her family members all looked very similar. They hid in the shadows on the path. The race began. Tara was soon far behind. However, Tara's brother hid behind a bush in the valley below. When Ricky got close, Tara's brother began to run. He looked just like Tara. Ricky ran as fast as he could along the path. But to him, it seemed like Tara was always ahead. Ricky had used a considerable amount of energy. He reached the top, but Tara's sister was already there. "Well, you win," Ricky said. Later, Tara had a broad smile on her face. Ricky never suspected he had been cheated by a family of slow turtles.
The starfish. Last summer, I took a trip to an island. I had a lot of fun. I sat and watched the waves and listened to the ocean. I learned to identify birds. I discovered pretty things and enjoyed the taste of new foods. It was a very nice time. One evening, I took a pleasant walk by the ocean. When the waves came in, many starfish fell on the beach. Some starfish went back into the water, and they were safe. But other starfish were still on the sand. They would die if they did not get into the water. There were many starfish on the beach that night. It made me sad, but I knew I could not fix the problem. I stepped very carefully so I did not damage them. Then I saw a little girl. She was also sad about the starfish. She wanted to prevent all of them from dying. She asked me if I could perhaps help her. "I don't think we can do anything," I said. The little girl started to cry. She sat back against a rock and thought for a while. Finally, the emotion was gone. She stopped crying and stood up. Then she picked up a starfish and threw it into the water. "What are you doing?" I asked her. But she did not answer me. She just threw as many starfish as she could. "You cannot save all of them," I said. She stopped to look at me. "No, I cannot save them all," she replied. Then she picked up a very big starfish and said, "But I can save this one." And then she smiled and threw the starfish as far as she could into the ocean.
Blackbeard. A long time ago, Blackbeard was one of the most violent pirates ever. He was also an enormous man. One day, there was a thick fog over the water. Blackbeard did an extraordinary thing. With his sword in his belt, he attacked several giant ships near a town and took some of the town's citizens. Then he revealed his intentions. He declared, "You will give me medicine." Blackbeard wanted the medicine for some of the sick pirates on his ship. The people had a bad impression of him. They were mad, and they resisted. But they were trapped. They wanted to get rid of him. So the town's council decided to give him the medicine. After this, there was a reward for catching Blackbeard. If Blackbeard was caught, he would have a trial. He didn't want to go to jail, so he quit being a pirate. Blackbeard became a fisherman. But he ought to have stayed on land. The Royal Navy was still looking for him. They attacked him while he was fishing on his boat. Blackbeard fought as hard as he could, but finally he was killed. He didn't even get a funeral, but people still tell tales about him many years later.
Dinosaur drawings. It was the worst morning ever. When Carl woke up, he realized that he hadn't done his astronomy and chemistry homework. Also, the forecast called for rain, and that would mean no baseball practice. Suddenly, his mother interfered. "Take out the garbage right now!" When Carl returned from taking the garbage outside, he was all wet. "What a terrible day," he said. He walked to class. He put his umbrella on the shelf and sat in the third row. But the teacher asked why Carl's umbrella was on the floor. He told her not to blame him because it had fallen down. But she sent him to the principal anyway out of spite. Next, he took a geography test. Despite studying, Carl didn't know the answers. He started drawing patterns lightly on his paper. Carl drew a huge dinosaur. What if it were real? He saw it in his mind. Carl's friends said he was a genius for creating a dinosaur. Soon, Carl's fame spread through school. He taught his dinosaur to be very gentle and exhibited it to the public. But admission would only be given to those who paid him a fee. His idea was super. "It's time to turn in your tests," the teacher said. Carl looked at his paper. As he was dreaming in class, he hadn't finished the test.
The Mean Chef. Once there was a chef who was mean to his cooks. He was mean to the people who came in to eat. He charged too much for meals. Many people were not able to afford the cheapest bean dish. When his metal oven broke, he did not have it fixed, so everything they tried to bake in it burned. The only light was from candles, and the whole place was a mess. Sometimes he didn't pay his waiters. Since they had no funds, they had many debts. The chef behaved this way all the time. He monitored the cooks and got angry if they did not do things his way. One day, the cooks decided that they were tired of the abuse and that they would not be passive anymore. Everyone opposed the chef. At first, they thought about suing him. Instead, they made him sit quietly while they controlled the restaurant. They decreased the price of food. They used the best ingredients and served large quantities of food. They repaired the equipment. They turned on the lights. The restaurant was converted into a happy place. For the first time, many people came to eat. The chef realized that the restaurant's problems were his fault. The chef learned an important lesson, and now the generous chef insisted on giving the customers a free meal.
One day, a cat climbed a mountain. When he reached the peak, he met a fox. They began talking about how to get away from their enemies. "I am very smart. I have the potential to think of billions of ideas. For instance, I can carve a tiny hole in a tree and then climb in," the fox said. He added, "I have a lot of friends. If I am in trouble, I can call them to lend their help. I can escape a whole army if I have to." Then the fox asked, "What are your plans?" The cat said, "I have only one plan: climb a tree." The fox said, "I hope you have good fortune then." However, one plan does not seem to be adequate. Do you want me to be your tutor? I can help you develop many new plans." The cat said, "I guarantee that my plan works every time. We can quit talking about it." Soon, they saw a group of wolves. It was clearly an emergency and the time to put plans into action. The cat quickly followed her plan. She ran up a tree. The fox was so full of intense anxiety that he could not decide which plan to use. What should my initial move be? Should I consult my friends? All he could do was spin in a circle. The wolves caught the fox. The cat was full of pride. This is proof that having one good plan is better than having many bad plans.
The Good Student. Sue left her dormitory early that morning. She had even washed her uniform the night before. She wanted to look nice for the day. Sue was committed to learning, and she had a talent for getting good grades. In fact, Sue didn't sleep much. She calculated, however, that she only had enough time for a few hours of sleep. She composed a paper and did some work on her thesis about the importance of greenhouses. She also studied for her physics test. Sue was already tired. During the test, she felt sick. Her face got hot, and her vision began to become unclear. She was blind for a moment. The teacher saw Sue's apparent problem. He wanted to send her to the nurse, but she wouldn't go. Sue still had a portion of the test to finish. After that, Sue went to the nurse. After seeing the secretary, she waited. A few minutes later, the nurse came in with a glass of juice and told Sue they needed to chat. "It is obvious that you have exhausted yourself," the nurse said. "If you keep working so hard, it could have severe results." "My parents tell me that all the time. I guess I shouldn't ignore them," Sue said. "You have to remind yourself that it is okay to rest," the nurse said. When Sue got back to her room, she went right to bed. She made sure she got enough rest every night after that.
Last year, I had a unique chance to work with my uncle, who has devoted his life to studying past generations. I was part of a crew of students he had hired. We signed a contract to work with him. He was the boss. We lived far from the nearest town, and we dined on what we could find. Some of the things we ate had an unusual flavor. We had been there about a month and still hadn't found anything. One day, I began to dig in the soil. The layers of soil got wetter. Soon, I was digging in the mud. My shovel began to get very heavy. It felt like it had doubled in weight because the ground had absorbed such a lot of water. Finally, I saw something in the mud. It was an old knife. The handle felt smooth in my hand. I lifted it up so I could see it better. There was writing on it. "It says it will bring good luck," my uncle said with a smile. The next day, we found many more things. There were pots and tools. My uncle donated all of the things to a special committee of a charitable foundation. Many newspapers wrote stories about it. It seemed the knife really did bring good luck.
Adams County's Gold. Adams Academy was a good school. Boys lived there and took classes. Tom worked hard all week. On a spring Saturday, he wanted to do something fun. He asked his friend Jeff to go to the movie theater. "Sorry," Jeff answered. I'm going to a concert. So Tom asked Joe to go to the movies, but Joe's soccer team had a game. Next, Tom went down the hall to Brad's room. Brad was reading a very large old book. "Hi, Brad," Tom said. "Are you reading a dictionary? It looks ancient." "No, this is called The Wealth of Adams County. It's about hidden gold in Adams County. It's more than a century old. It was published in 1870. Look, it even has the original cover on it." Tom asked, "Where did you get it?" "It's from my dad's friend. He is a nice gentleman, an officer in the army," answered Brad. "The gold doesn't really exist, does it?" Tom asked. "I don't know, but maybe. There are clues in this book. Let's find it." Looking for gold sounded like fun. The first clue was to find a flat tree underground. "It must be in the forest," Tom said. Brad said, "The flat tree could be a board under the dirt. It could cover the gold." Tom and Brad dug in the dirt all morning. The process of looking for gold made them hungry. They were ready to stop for lunch. But then Brad hit something hard. It was a board. Brad pounded on the board until it broke. There was a small hole under it. "Look!" He held up a gold coin. Tom saw a piece of paper in the hole. "Brad, there's more. It's a map to the rest of the gold." Brad smiled. "Let's go!" And they hurried to find the wealth of Adams County.
Henry Ford's famous car. My name is Henry Ford, and I invented a car called the Model T. I used to watch carriages on the streets. They were very interesting. Then I got a job as a junior mechanic. My father criticized me. He wanted me to run the farm. When I shifted to Detroit, I worked for the Detroit Auto Company. But I wanted to make cars using less labor. That way, there would be fewer expenses. I started the Ford Motor Company in 1903. At first, the company did not do well, but many people were betting on my success. I also had a sincere aim to make a car that anybody could buy. Then in 1908, I introduced the Model T. It confirmed that I was right. It was possible to build a car my way. The Model T differed from other vehicles. Each worker would attach a different part to the car. This made their job easy to learn and saved a lot of time. One Model T could be put together in 93 minutes. All of them had the same classic design. They were all the same size and height. The prime reason for doing this was to save money. We had a formal ceremony to celebrate our success when the millionth car was made in our factory. Over 19 years, I sold more than 15 million Model Ts. This sent a signal to other companies. People would buy cars to commute to work if the price was low enough.
A young priest was always sad. He was good at his profession, but he still had no joy. He visited a group of monks. When he got to the monk's house, they greeted him and let him in. The monks asked the priest, "What is the matter?" The priest said, "I should be happy, but I am not. I don't know what to do." The wise monks paused for a minute. Then one said, "We are convinced of your faith. You are a very good priest. But to find joy, you have to do more. Above all, investigate the elements of your life that you love." The priest thought that this answer was odd, but he was curious. The next day, the priest thought about his abilities. He got a few ideas, and he did not want to delay any longer. He liked to draw, so he made some cartoons. He also liked to write, so he started a diary. He was interested in agriculture, so he planted some grain. He made jam from fruit. He made his own labels to put on the jars of jam. He painted his ceiling. The priest learned something. It is not too hard to be happy after all. All one has to do is find things one likes doing and do them.
Strange and unusual jobs. Strange and unusual jobs are usually not popular. However, they pay well and may be a good option for people who want to do something fun and exciting for work. Here are a few strange and unusual jobs. A tea sampler is a person who drinks tea. Tea samplers have very good tongues. They must know all the different types of teas from around the world. It can take years to train for this job. This is not an office job, as tea samplers travel around the world throughout the year. Another unusual but well-paying job is a professional line stander. For this job, a person stands in line for another person. Professional line standers are usually very busy during big sales, such as Black Friday or the day a new smartphone comes out. During these sales, line standers can earn quite a lot of money. For example, one professional line stander waited in line for an iPhone 5 for 100 hours and earned $1,500. Pet food companies hire pet food tasters to test the taste and quality of their products. Pet food tasters normally taste dog food or cat food. After tasting the food, they usually spit it out. They need to know which products sell the best, so they read and write many reports about pet food quality. Another unusual job is a golf ball diver. Golf ball divers are responsible for collecting golf balls that people have hit into ponds. This job is not as easy as it sounds. The divers wear wetsuits to dive to the bottom of a pond, which is usually very dirty and dark. This job can also be dangerous because sometimes there are snakes in the ponds. There have also been cases of divers being bitten by alligators. If you're looking for a job out of the ordinary, figure out what your interest is and consider a strange or unusual job. You may have to wait for one, but it will be worth it.
My name is Albert Einstein. Many people know about the great things I've accomplished, but I had many barriers to get through before I became famous. I was born in Germany. When I was in elementary school, I already knew about math and statistics. When I was a boy, I pretended to be a great scientist. I loved school, but my life at home was hard. My father lost his job, so my family lived in poverty. We could not pay the rent in Germany. We became immigrants and went to Italy. I finished high school and went to college in Switzerland. After college, I began writing about science. I did not reach success in an instant, though. At first, other scientists did not approve of my work. They thought I was a failure. Rising to the rank of an admired scientist was a gradual process. Soon, people started to notice that I was right. At last, I began to get some recognition. I showed how to find the approximate size of very big things, like stars. I also detected and explained the motion of very small things, like atoms. And for fun, I made a machine that could refrigerate food by inserting heat. I never retired. I felt it was my duty to keep working.
From the Earth to the Stars. Jeremy was from a family of miners. Like them, he worked underground during the day. His job was to find raw minerals and jewels. Each night after work, He lay awake in an open field. With his telescope, he looked at the stars. He was amazed by the scale of space. He wished someday he might travel there. One day, there was an accident in the mine. Water poured into the mine. Everything was dark. Jeremy stretched out and grabbed a piece of wood. It kept him from sinking. For a long time, he floated in silence. Then he heard voices. The other miners were coming to rescue him. This accident made Jeremy think about his job and his life. The next day, he skipped work and made a very important decision. He had the courage to follow his decision. He decided to become an astronaut. For the next 2 years, Jeremy studied and trained hard. He completed his training, and one day, he was given permission to participate in a journey to space. His wish had been granted. His spaceship left the ground. It went higher until there was no more gravity. Part of his job was to send out a satellite that would then float away from the spaceship. Now, instead of just looking at the stars, Jeremy could look at the Earth as well.
The Farm Festival. Once there was a farm. Many animals lived there. One day they had a contest in the yard. They were going to race from the barn to the farmer's garage. The barn and the garage were far apart. It would be a long race. The winner qualified to win a bag full of apples as an award. But the race did not start well. The cart with all the apples was not stable, and the animals had to repair it. Then the pup knocked over the apples. The pig said, "We are going to slip. We must clean up this mess." The pup felt bad, and she began to cry. The dog gave her a tissue to dry her tears. Then the race resumed. But the duck tried to rob them and take all the apples. The cat said, "I will have you arrested." The duck said, "You can't convict me. You can't prove I took them." The race stopped yet again. The animals tried to race one more time. Then they heard an alarm coming from the barn. There was a fire. They got buckets of water to put out the fire. A journalist came to write a story about the festival and the race. The horse told her, "I am a special breed of horse. I would have won the race easily." The pig said, "It was somewhat hard to have the race, but we had fun. That is what's important."
48 hours in Hong Kong. 48 hours in Hong Kong may sound like a short visit, but it will surprise you how much you can see and do. The best way to get the most out of your trip is to plan in advance. Hong Kong has a great public transportation system that is easy to use. The system is called the MTR, which includes the metro, trains, and buses. You can get a card called the Octopus Card at a metro station and use it to travel around. Taxis are another way to get around Hong Kong. Not only are there many taxis everywhere, but they are also quite cheap compared to taxis in other large cities. On the first day of your trip, go up Victoria Peak. At the top of the mountain, you will see beautiful city views. Then have dim sum for lunch. Dim sum consists of many different dishes. It is a great way to taste a little bit of everything. In the afternoon, take the Star Ferry from Hong Kong Island and cruise across Victoria Harbour to Kowloon. There are many markets in this area. Temple Market and Ladies' Market are very popular. At 8 p.m., join the crowd that is watching the Symphony of Lights, which is a 15-minute light show around Hong Kong's tall buildings. On the second day of your trip, spend your time shopping at one of Hong Kong's many malls, such as IFC or Times Square. You can also shop at smaller stores in Soho and Sheung Wan as well. Unlike the markets, the prices are set, so you cannot change them. After shopping, try an order of roast goose, which is similar to roast duck. Roast goose is a special dish in Hong Kong. If you want to experience Hong Kong's nightlife, head to Lang Kwai Fong. If not, go back to your hotel for a good night's rest. With careful planning, you can do a lot in just 2 days in Hong Kong.
The Doctor's Cure. James Fry was a fantastic doctor. His surgery helped many disabled people overcome their problems. He also wrote for a popular doctor's journal. James was very busy. His son, Steve, rarely saw him. One day, James was walking and inspecting a patient's file. There was water all over the floor. James slipped on the liquid and fell. He fell on a broken glass tube. He was hurt. Steve came to visit him in the hospital. James said, "It will be tough for me to stay in bed, but I can hardly bend my legs." "Then let's watch a movie," Steve said. It made them laugh together. Steve said, "I have to leave, but here's some fiction to read." James started to recall fun parts of life. He marveled at small things, like food. He was too busy to notice them before. "Steve," he said, "you get more food value when you chew slowly. But I think it makes food taste better, too." Weeks later, James said, "Steve, I haven't spent enough time with you. I regret this. Even my soul feels better when you visit. But I have spent sufficient time here. We should go home." Outside, there was a warm breeze. James watched a flag blow. Finally, James said, "I'm still not ready to work. I'm going to take a long bath, and then we'll watch a movie together. I'll start work tomorrow, and this time I will not work too hard."
How Comet got his tail. A solitary rock roamed through the cold gloom of space. It slowly moved through space with a feeling of sadness. In the large and beautiful galaxy, it was only a tiny rock. It felt as small as an atom. On its journeys, it encountered many amazing objects. It flew by beautiful moons that were covered with dust. "Why can't I be as beautiful as them?" it thought. The rock passed a large planet. The sphere was hundreds of times larger than the breadth of the small rock. "Why can't I be as large as that?" it wondered. The rock was filled with despair. It was surrounded by beauty and greatness, yet it was just a small and ugly fragment of rock. One day, it approached the area of a bright star. "What's wrong?" the star asked. "Oh, I wish I had a higher status in the galaxy. All the other objects are so beautiful and large," the rock replied. "But I'm just an ugly rock." The star considered the problem. At last it said, "You don't have to worry anymore. I think I can help." The star radiated its light brighter and hotter than it had ever done before. "Come a little closer," the star said to the rock. The rock drifted closer to the star. Suddenly, the ice that was in the rock's tiny holes melted and became gas. Then, the gas came out behind the comet to form a brilliant tail. The tail shone with all the colors of the spectrum. The little rock had become a beautiful comet. It looked so amazing. It realized that the star helped it change its appearance. "Thank you," the comet said, and then flew away with its new beautiful tail following behind it like a giant cape.
The Two Captains. Once there were two ships. Both ships carried cotton. The captains were very different. Thomas was strict. He made his crew engage in difficult tasks, and he kept firm control of his ship and men. His ship's deck was always clean and working well, and he sailed carefully to use less fuel. His ship was very plain, but he never had a problem with it. The second captain, William, was not so serious. He had a grand ship, and he loved having fun. When they stopped at islands, his crew amused themselves by going surfing or diving on the reef. They gave more time to these things than to taking care of the ship. One day Thomas saw a hurricane ahead. He knew that his ship needed to turn around, but he was sure William did not see the storm. He adjusted the dials on the radio and called his friend to tell him how to avoid the danger zone. But William's radio was not working, so it was not possible to contact him. When William's ship got to the hurricane, the wind blew it into the reef. William tried to shut the door, but the ship had already crashed into the coral, and there was a lot of damage. William's crew then accused him of being a bad captain. The loss of the ship taught William a lesson, and he then really understood the value of keeping equipment working well.
A mean duke grew tobacco. The duke's top minister was his twin brother. They resembled each other a lot. One day, the tobacco plants started to die. The duke hired men to watch the fields so they could see who was damaging the plants. Soon, the men brought a woman to him and said, "We captured a witch." The duke asked, "How do you know?" "She's saying magic words. I can't pronounce them. She has cursed us. The death of the plants is a symptom of her curse." The men said, "I am just an ordinary woman. I was singing a song in a different language," the woman said. The duke didn't listen. "You are guilty. You will go to jail," he said. The minister thought that she was innocent. He needed to expose the truth. The minister went to find out what was happening to the plants. He saw hundreds of small bugs eating them. Then, the minister went to the jail and did something bold. "Let this woman go," he said. The guards thought he was the duke. They let her go. The minister said to the woman, "I owe you an apology." "Thank you. I thought my stay in jail would be permanent," the woman answered. The minister thought the duke would punish him, but he didn't. The duke was too busy trying to preserve his plants.
The Fisherman. Every day a fisherman sat on a bridge. He ate apples and spat the seeds into the water. He had a simple way to catch fish. He cut a branch off a tree and tied a line to it. He put a sharp hook on the line and made a tight knot. Then he whispered, "Come here, fish." Like magic, the fish bit the hook. He put them in a big net and took them home to make big pots of fish soup from them. One day another man walked up to him. He said, "My name is George. I am staying at the inn. I bet that I am a better fisherman than you. I will accompany you today. I dare you to prove your skill." The fisherman cast his line. George had a lot of electronic tools. One machine gave him the virtual locations of fish. Another machine weighed fish. At the end of the day, George subtracted his fish from the fisherman's. The fisherman had beaten him by 47. George asked, "How do you catch fish with only a branch and a bare line? I have many different sorts of tools." The fisherman told George, "My philosophy is simple. I am patient and I believe in myself. Take a deep breath and try it my way."
Osiris and the Nile. Long ago, Osiris was the king of Egypt, and Isis was the queen. They controlled the fertile land by the Nile River. They were not only interested in everyday things. Because of their intelligence, they explored abstract ideas as well. Osiris taught the Egyptians how to make wheels and furniture. Isis taught them how to make things from clay and cloth. The people thought the king and queen deserved a gift. So they built Osiris and Isis a pyramid. Everyone loved Osiris except his brother, Set. Set wanted to be king. Osiris made his annual trip around Egypt and led religious events. The people gave him beautiful shells and colorful feathers as gifts. When Osiris returned, Set brought a beautiful wooden box from behind a curtain. "If someone fits inside this box, I will give it to him or her," Set said. Osiris got in it. It was an ideal fit. Suddenly, Set closed the box and threw it into the river. "Now I will be king," Set said. The box washed up on a foreign shore after a flood. Isis brought his body home and obtained a grave for him in Egypt. The Egyptian gods thought Isis had done something very romantic. Because of this love, the gods made Osiris the god of the underworld, and Osiris returned every spring to help the farmers. Even nowadays, people say Osiris keeps their crops alive.
The Kitten and the Caterpillar. Katy the kitten liked to play. One day, Cory the caterpillar emerged from a hole in the wall while Katy was playing in the living room. "Hey," Katy said, "do you want to play with me?" Cory was reluctant. He said, "I'd rather not play with you. I have several handicaps. My body is very delicate. Your claws are as sharp as hooks. You might cut me. Plus, I have no bones, not even a spine. You could easily hurt me." "I swear that I won't hurt you," Katy said. "No, I don't want to," he said again. He hopped from the wall, but Katy pursued him. Cory ran into the kitchen and into the cupboard, but Katy ran right behind. Katy knocked appliances to the floor. Plates fell into the sink and broke in the basin. Then Cory ran into a bedroom. Some laundry was on the floor. Cory hid under a shirt, but Katy saw him. She jumped on the shirt. Her paws left stains on it, and her claws tore the sleeves into strips. However, Cory escaped. He used a small hole in the floor to hide. But Katy saw him. "Now you are caught," said Katy. Cory tried to avoid Katy's claws. He moved his body as far into the hole as possible. He didn't know how he'd get out of the hole. Just then, Katy's owner came home. She saw that the house was a mess. She took a broom and swung it at Katy. She chased Katy out of the house. Cory was safe, and Katy was left outside because she didn't listen to the wishes of others.